Hey, I'm Kate Fitzsimons, and you're listening to the Heart Healthy Hustle Show with my friend, Jonathan Frederick.
What are you getting after? What seeds are you planting? What are you overcoming? Think big. Think even bigger. Take some risks. God's got your back. Go for it. Don't hold back. Don't ever have regrets in your life. Go fail. Go grow from those things. Live your life.
Your identity is not defined by your successes or your failures.
If you're not happy where you're at, you won't be happy where you're going. Choose to do the things that will make you the person you want to be, that will make you a better person next week and next year.
You're going to have to leave some things you're actually good at behind so that you can find what you're wired for, what you're born for.
Being a world-class entrepreneur is being in every area of life excellent.
It is the little things that are so easy not to do.
The best thing that you can do is assume the best in people.
I want people around the world to believe they can do something great with their life.
If I build the biggest business, but I destroy my physical body and I lose my health, I don't think that's success. While you're on the journey climbing to success, never forget the things that matter most.
If you like this episode, be sure to hit the subscribe button. Today's guest has a story of courage that will resonate with many of you. Meet Kate Fitzsimons, an award-winning international youth speaker and resilience specialist, named one of Australia's top 100 women of influence. In high school, Kate was battling with unrealistic expectations, anxiety, shame, self-loathing. Kate wanted some sort of control over her life, and that led her to spiral into an anorexia vortex. As she continued struggling, Kate found herself having behavior meltdowns that hurt those who loved her most. But the most devastating blow was in 2012. Kate's older sister, Nicole, was tragically killed and taken from them in a traveling accident. This initiated a debilitating despair in Kate until it turned into a fire, a passion to truly live for both herself and her sister, Nicole. Her old self-perceptions began to burn away as she put one foot in front of the other, rebuilding a new version of her life. She ditched the excuses and turned in her victim card. For 6 years, she trained her body to become lean and strong, eventually competing and winning fitness competitions. At the age of 20, she started a charitable foundation to help teens learn how to travel safely. Kate is now on a mission to empower fellow young professionals and teens through life's unexpected, uncertain, and unwanted challenges. Kate has spoken at over 200 schools to over 100,000 teens internationally and has been featured on numerous TV shows. Kate also has her own podcast called Okay, Now What? Without further ado, welcome Kate Fitzsimons to the show. Great. So we start out the show with a favorite success quote, a saying you live by, and share with the audience what you got.
I love the idea of when nothing is certain, anything is possible. Because, your brain always tries to tell you, but that's not possible. Or like, what if, and all the uncertain. I'm like, yeah, you don't know for sure, but isn't that the beautiful thing that you just don't know for sure? It could still come true. Like, you can never say never with anything. So yeah, that always fires me up.
So Kate, give us an update on what the weather's like, where you're at right now. You're in Australia currently, yes?
Yes. So I'm living in the future. Sunday morning. It's Saturday night for you, I believe. But yeah, it's a gorgeous winter morning here. So we're going into our winter, which it does so actually get cold in Australia. Wearing a little beanie and my big coat this morning, but it was probably, I'm trying to get better at American conversions from Celsius to Fahrenheit. My boyfriend's American, so I tried.
With your story, let's go back in time a bit.
Yeah, so it's the 20th of October, 2012. So this October, it will be 7 years, yeah. So I was 20, just getting out of university when it happened.
And that's the same year, is that right, that you started the foundation?
Yeah, so we launched the foundation at Nicole's Memorial on the 2nd of November. It was really quick, but it was basically because we're getting flooded with all these flowers from people like after her passing, which was beautiful. Like, she just touched so many hearts while she was here, but we were like, we want people's money and goodwill going to something to more like long lasting. Flowers die after a week, and we couldn't really find a cause that really reflected Nicole. She didn't pass away from a disease that we could donate like money to research for and all this stuff. And then she just had a beautiful passion for dancing and for like performing and for sports, especially like rugby league and everything like that. So we were like, we'll create this foundation and give small grants to people struggling in those areas and help them just achieve a goal like Nicole always loved to inspire us to do. And then it was at that same time that I began researching researching into travel safety and discovered some pretty alarming statistics. So it all happened quite quickly, but it was so beautiful to have a purpose that we could immediately channel all of this pain, but also all of the love that we still had for Nicole into something meaningful.
Wow. You were given a passion to truly live, and this is something that really hit me with your story. The reason that I reached out to you, Kate, was because the way you are approaching your life is not just for yourself, but also I can truly see it's for your sister as well. So, I think I shared that with you, and I've shared it with the audience, that I lost a friend in October of last year. Obviously, it's not the same as losing a family member so close, but there is a level of just drive. When I lost him, it was like everything, you just kind of recognize the fragility of life and how short it really is. And so what I would love to do today is tap into that part of you, hear more about that, and give the audience, even if they haven't gone through a tragedy or if they have and it's just been a long time, anybody listening, I'd love to tap into that. Why I do this show is to help people see that, yes, you can live wide open. Yes, you can truly live.
The biggest part for me was really writing a funeral speech at 20 years old, really recognizing what a life well lived is and what people hold on to and remember you by and celebrate you for once you're gone. And I had to sit back and be like, if this was me when my sister was, would I be proud of the kind of person I was being? Would I be able to stand behind myself, or like high five myself at the end of the day and be like, you made the most of your life? Because I was still only young, but so was Nicole, and she fit more into her life in those 24 years than most people would in 80. I looked at me and I was always kind of short-tempered and stressed, and I nearly didn't even go to my sister's last birthday because I had a university assignment due the following week, and I was like, I need to study, and trying to prove myself and attach myself to like the worth of myself to what was my grade, or what position was I going to get in that company, and what was I going to do with my career, and just so much external validation. But then I couldn't even stand behind myself and say I was proud of who I was being, and so that was such a big wake-up call. I actually felt, and for anyone else who's lost someone young, you can feel a bit of like survivor's guilt. Like I felt like, oh my goodness, there's my sister who was just living this incredible life, and she was so generous but so brave with her dreams, becoming a dancer and then going into sports journalism. Like the media world's not a kind one. You've got to have guts to go into it, and just living her life to the fullest, her life gets taken from her. And then I'm sitting here kind of being quite, ungrateful and taking things for granted and not really appreciating the simple things, and worried about more what I was doing with my life than who I was being, in the world. And that's when I was like, well, I've got a choice here. I can either completely withdraw and hate on the world and let myself kind of die away with my sister, or I can take the best parts of her and use this as the greatest learning opportunity of my life, and really be like, this is my second chance to just be all in and to choose to value what my sister did more than anything. And that is the journey and the experience of life, and not so much in the achieving, but in the fact that you're brave enough to stand up and go after it. But keeping in balance, like, the simple things of like going for a walk in the morning, having a chat with the guy making your coffee and enjoying a bite-sized cookie, and just, not getting so caught up that you think, I have to keep, because you see the hustle gets like, people just stress themselves into meltdowns. It's like, at the end of the day, my sister wasn't the best dancer or the best journalist out there, but we celebrated her life, and it was an amazing memorial attended by over 2,000 people, because it wasn't, we were like, oh, she was the best. It was like, she was kind and she was brave. And I'm like, as long as I approach the world from that place of humility and gratitude and courage, like, I will not go wrong in my life, and I will leave a legacy that I'm proud of. And I think that's what we each need to think about, whether we're 18 or 80 or anywhere in between. Our legacy is not just something you write on a piece of paper at the end of the day. It is something that we are living and weaving into the hearts of those around us every single day, in how we choose to treat other people around us and treat our own life. We have a relationship with our life, and are we taking it for granted, or are we actually, showing up with an open heart for it every day? And, in relationships, we need to do that with other people, but we also need to do it with our life. And rather than just expecting life to give us what we want, it's opening up and being brave enough to go after it, knowing that regardless of the outcome, we're still going to have, one hell of a good time, living it. So, yeah.
You're on a mission now, and you're speaking all the time, and you're not just speaking in your local town of Australia. Go ahead and talk to us about how you are honoring Nicole's legacy by speaking to young professionals about travel safety, about life all over the world.
Yes. I mean, the whole travel safety talk was kind of born from when I was researching into it, and I discovered now an Australian tourist dies over in Thailand in Southeast Asia every 17 hours. And I was every 17 hours, a family is receiving a phone call like my own. Every 17 hours, someone's vacation's turning into a nightmare. Every 17 hours, one less tourist is coming back home. And that is not okay on my watch. And so where I found the courage to step up is I stopped letting myself dwell on the loss and what I couldn't change and just focus on the lessons and what I could change. I would have given anything for someone to have given my sister that wake-up call and said, because she got on a motorbike without a helmet, and that's a risk that she'd never take back here in Australia. Yet, I'm sure Americans and, the same, you get on vacation and you get all excited and you kind of get complacent and it's I'm off and doing this fun holiday, nothing bad will happen to me.
Yeah.
And my sister was sensible that if she'd known the risks or statistics or heard a story like her own, she never would have gotten on that bike. And we have video footage of her accident. It's nothing gory, but it just shows how suddenly a life can be taken. And it's obviously hard for me to watch, but I'm burying that, and never letting it see the light of day. That doesn't change. It doesn't bring Nicole back. It only leaves people ignorant to the risk they're taking. But by putting it out there, raising awareness, sharing the facts and statistics, I could save someone else's sister, someone else's brother, someone else's niece or nephew. I was that matters to me and that gives me a purpose. And so I put together this travel safety presentation. I left a corporate job that I'd just been at university for, doing a business degree, got this big fancy job. My career was meant to be set. I was just suddenly looked around, and to be honest, I remember being in the cafeteria where I was working. I just started the job because I was I'll give it a go. And I looked around and everyone just seemed kind of miserable around me. Everyone was complaining about the weather or why this or why that. And I remember just sitting there and I'm my sister's would just give anything for one more day on this earth. And here we are, this whinging about such simple things rather than appreciating the simple things. And I was no one around me seems truly happy. And I was I just pictured myself in 10 years' time kind of becoming one of those people if I stayed in this environment. And I was you know what? I do not want to look back in 10 years and think I could have done something, but I was scared. So I just went all in on this travel safety campaign and became the director of Nicole's Foundation. A lot of people called me and said, "What are you doing? You're leaving a big paycheck and the security. Do you know this opportunity?" And I was I'm aware of what I'm walking away from, but I'm also very aware of the regret that I could feel and if I didn't even try and do something. So to me, nothing burns deeper than regret. So I went all in on it, and it was slow to get started. In the first year I only did about 10 schools that sent out, I kid you not, over 500 emails trying to get the campaign going. But I just reminded myself, I'm not entitled to success I haven't yet earned, but through learning to navigate my way through all these obstacles, I'm growing into that person who will. And, I reached out to the Australian government. At first, they didn't really give me any response, but now they're right behind us backing the campaign. And I get to meet with the foreign minister, and it's just grown into this huge thing. So I'm really proud of that, but it certainly wasn't an overnight thing. And so it's been 6 years now. And I've traveled right around Australia with it, over 100,000 students. I do now do an overcoming adversity and building resilience presentation and how to cope through those unwanted events and turn them into, a positive learning opportunity. Because kids kept coming up to me and saying, "Oh, I how do you do what you do? I'd never be able to do it." And it's that last sentence that really would actually hurt my heart, because I'm no, guys, I just learned some simple but important, powerful lessons and strategies to practice this skill of overcoming these things. And it's all comes from the power of my perspective and, learning about the power of our responsibility, and that's our ability to choose our response to things. And, I just then was right, I want to try and answer this question as best as I can that they kept asking of like, how'd you do it? And so that then turned into a resilience presentation, which again, it felt like my training wheels went back on and I had to learn how to build my own personal brand, right? Because there's a Nicole Fitzsimons Foundation and that's Nicole's charity. And I'm like kind of like an employee of that, I guess you'd say, and I run it and all of that. But suddenly I was branching off to Kate Fitzsimons and I was building almost like this own profile or personality or brand, and that was really scary for me. And I still have a lot of imposter syndrome around it and feeling like, who am I to be doing this? Because it went from sharing Nicole's story to sharing my own story. That takes another layer of vulnerability for me. And, again, people like, oh, like what's she doing and all of that. But I was like, I could just feel, I'm sure you felt it as well, that gut instinct. Like, you just mentioned something to me about you just got to trust your gut. And I just felt like there was a need for this, the teen mental health and everything is not in a good way right around the world. And there were people whose stories inspired me so much. They gave me inspiration to pick myself up off the bathroom floor when I was broken. And I use them just as a symbol of hope and possibility that I can get through this. And I feel like it's now my responsibility to pass on that inspiration. I believe rock bottom all becomes our opportunity to start writing our own story of what is possible. That's a presentation now that I've been lucky enough. Well, I guess it's not luck. It's definitely something I've worked hard for. But, I believe luck is when hard work opportunity. And, I had a principal from Idaho reach out to me and he invited me over last December and I spoke to 4 high schools over there, over 5,000 kids over 2 days. And it was incredible. And so now I'm trying to build up more of a, career and opportunities over in America, as well as I'm going over to New Zealand in July. So I'll be able to, I'll get some more New Zealand accents around me, which will remind me of you now.
Yeah, I was just going to say, if you need somebody to transcribe, I take about $150 an hour.
That's very generous of you.
I know.
Great.
Yeah, I think it is. So talk to us about the transition, going back quite a bit now, about the transition from and finding speaking. Like when you said you emailed over 500 or you reached out to over 500 schools and organizations. Now you've spoken to over
about 200. My dad, the accountant's horrified that I haven't kept like a list. I'm not, my brain doesn't work like that.
Right.
I'm very creative brain. Like so many people now come to me and they're like, I want to start this thing. I want to start speaking. Like, what did you do? I always say like, you have to get, good at hearing no and being rejected and not making it mean anything about what you're offering. Just understanding that, first of all, that you got to do the delayed gratification thing and believe in your why and everything. But yeah, it was really, you've got to be good and what you do as well, right? And take time developing a talk or a presentation that really like hits home. But the hard thing is, the best way to do that is you got to get up and start speaking. So I did it for free for like the first 2 years. Like we just asked for a donation to the foundation, but some schools wouldn't even give that. So, and now now they're paying the full, like we've got a fee and everything with it, and now they've come around, but you have to be willing to, you've got to be hungry for it. You've got to be willing to, I know my talk's so much more valuable than being free, but guess what you get from that? You get word of mouth, you get recommendations, you get just like, especially in the teaching industry, like teachers talk, right? Because there's so many speakers out there. So they will go off of this one was recommended. Like, it was really just not being like, excuse me, you should pay for this. Like, look how, like, I knew it was valuable, but I knew that the delayed gratification, like this is going to come back around to me in a bigger way. I've just got to keep showing up now. Again, not for the pat on the back or for the paycheck or anything like that, but because this is the kind of person I want to be. I want to be showing up and giving to others and trying to save a life.
I want to be showing up powerfully each day. What happened to your mental health, Kate, when you said yes to your purpose, when you embraced it and you started going through the growing pains of 500 reach outs and nobody? What did it do for your mental health to embrace that period? Was it easy for you because you were so driven at the moment?
I think it was all relative to the pain that I was already in through grief, So
yeah, that's powerful. That's so powerful, by the way. Yep. What you just said.
Yeah, I still draw upon this moment. because I still like freak out in little ways about what I'm doing, or like you said, like I'm transitioning over to the US, and it's like, why not just stay here and be comfortable? And, you know, but I'm all about just setting the bar higher and just seeing where I can take this. And I always remember, you know, there was one moment when my dad literally, he had to carry me out of like the Nicole's like ceremony when I was saying goodbye to her for the last time. And the pain I felt in that moment, I thought it would kill me, and it didn't. And I still draw upon that. And if I can get through that moment, then everything else is just relative. And that's why I think like we can look at the hard things and those painful things in our life and be like, oh, this happened to me, poor me, like this shouldn't have happened. Or be like, look at what I survived. Look at what I got through. Like just, and you can draw so much strength from that. It's all in the way that you tell the story about what happened, why that happened. And you know, and I draw upon that. And because that moment, it hurt so much because I love my sister so much, right? And that is why I just stay open to life now, and I don't expect life to be easy. I think when we have this expectation that, you know, it was all keeping my expectations in check too, right? Like, what if you knew it was going to take 100 no's before you got your first yes, right? You'd almost be excited to get your no because you'd be like, oh my goodness, my next no, yes, okay, add that to the collection, next one.
Yeah.
But it's all this you know, we're taking away our ability to practice delayed gratification in every part of our society, in, you know, social media and shopping and Netflix, and it's all now, instant. And so we're not having this ability to practice it. And that's why I love working out. I love the gym, because you ain't going to get any instant gratification from the gym.
But
that will not just be like, you won't just pick up weights and suddenly you've got like, you know, toned arms and a flat stomach, right? It doesn't work like that. So gym's been a big practice for me. And in fact, I would say that really what taught me with my competitions, like that I went through this massive 6 months transformation, and I look back at that and I'm like, wow, that wasn't a big leap. That wasn't an instant like, whoa, overnight, like I just jumped all these like, you know, transition. It was day by day, little by little, showing up rep by rep. I changed my body. I completely transformed it. If I can do that with my body, then I can do that with all kind of goals I have. It's showing up every day, and yeah, keeping your expectations in check and not attaching your worth to any outcome. You know, I realized that I was worthy regardless of whether I failed at this or not. And I know that sounds like a little like Hallmark card or something, like a little cheesy quote, but it's so true. Just as a human being on this planet, we are, you know, we're not more or less worthy than anyone, you know. And I look at my little baby nephew now who's just been born, and it's not like I'm looking at him and it's like, oh, he'll be worthy once he goes out and gets the right career and earns this much money and then we'll love him. You know, he comes into this and you just want to love on him for simply being here. And we've got to remember that that's all we all have that ability, and whether we're, you know, 50 or whatever, that's still, we're still that same little baby underneath it all that's just worthy of love. And so I have to have my own back with that as well. And yeah, but it's not easy. And of course, you know, but you know what, it was great. Like I still remember, and I look at it now, and I was just saying to my boyfriend the other day, like, it's funny, things that happen now, like I used to sprint down the stairs and like scream out to mum, like, I got another booking. Like I was so excited. And now they're like, you know, I do like a little dance, and now it's like they come through and I'm like, oh, cool. Like I just look at my diary, and then sometimes I just stop and be like, can you look at this? Like, look at what you've done. Like high five yourself, celebrate it. Yeah, it's so easy to suddenly get like, not complacent, but it's just cool sometimes to look at how far it's come. But I've got to say, like, all the no's then made the yes so much more exciting.
You are able to look at what you've been through and say, wow, I can draw a lot of courage from the fact that I survived that. And
oh, absolutely.
This pales in comparison. Nothing actually doesn't diminish my worth. It doesn't do anything to take away from what I'm doing. Doesn't matter how people respond. It's, you know, my responsibility is on me, and it's completely a state of courage versus you're not fearless. I'm sure you still have, you know, you're excited, but I'm sure there's still times, like you said, in like the daily things, maybe you get a little bit, maybe a little nervous even. This is not a popular, not a popular word, but I do too. And so, I think that it's something that when you look at, okay, well, I didn't go through any tragedy, or I didn't go through any crazy thing. I'm not an immigrant. Like, what does it matter if, like, how am I ever going to really draw a lot of courage so I can step up into that next level? You know, forging the best version of myself through consistent action is the next thing. You know, if you don't have something to draw from, something insane that happened in your life, that's awesome. Like, you should be really grateful about that. And also be forging your character, because life has a way of coming around. But I wouldn't wish that on anyone. But the point is, in the moment,
the reality is,
stuff's going to happen in life. It's just the way it is. But if you're taking those consistent reps, physically, mentally, spiritually, everything, you're going to build up a much stronger mental state. Your mental health will be better. I'm not saying this is a prescription for anyone, because I'm not that arrogant to think that I would know that, but I definitely recognize psychologically that progress has helped me a ton. Going through tribulations has forged my courage. That doesn't mean I don't have fear. It just means that when I'm walking into a setting where I might be uncomfortable, I just ground myself with a deep breath and recognize, okay, what does this matter? You know, in the grand scheme of things, yeah, it matters, but I've already been through so much. This is not like it. That's the thing. Like with tragedies, it grounds you so much, because you're like, or with potential tragedies, right? Things that should have gone really, really bad. I've personally been in multiple car accidents. Last year and a half ago, I totaled my vehicle in a rainstorm going 70 miles an hour. And I have a video of the car afterwards. I was completely fine, but the grace of God alone. But that accident easily could have killed me. Like, I hit the guardrail, spun around 360 back out into traffic. Cars didn't even stop. There was a moving truck that went right in front of my car. And so, like, stuff like that, I'm like, all right, there's no way that I'm literally unscathed. That's on purpose. Like, there has to be a reason that I didn't get hurt. You know, and
the beautiful thing is, you get to choose that reason and choose that purpose. Like, no one can take that and say, this is why it happened. You get that choice, and you get to tell the story however you want. You know, you could have said, poor me, my car got totaled, I nearly died. And you're like, wow, I lived, and I lived for a reason. And now let's find out what that reason is. I get to choose, you know? So again, it's all in perspective.
Perspective is so important.
It's like, I love always thinking of the woman that I'll grow to become through having to overcome all of this. You know, that's almost the purpose of why I love setting that goal that little bit higher. You know, I always love to remind myself, like, here isn't better than there. You know, I can then get over to America, and then there's just going to be new issues and problems. Like, life is always going to have adversity in it. It's always going to have, you know, challenges and things like that. And, you know, the purpose of setting bigger goals isn't like that achieving it. It's like, I just want to, as I said, I just want to be able to stand behind myself at the end of the day and just know that, you lived this life and you gave it your all. And it feels like America's that next big step. It feels like I'm going from a, you know, big fish in a small pond to like this tiny fish in like this big ocean. But I'm ready for it. I feel like I know, and it's hard. Like, I don't know about like you, Jonathan, but sometimes in our society, well, in Australia, we have this thing called tall poppy syndrome. And it's like we love supporting each other to a point, like with Aussies. And then we start to tear Aussies down once they get too successful, because, you know, we're like at the end of the earth and we think we're really big. But then once we start to like step out and they start to make it big, it's like we just start to like turn on each other. It's really weird. It's this. Have you heard of it before?
Tall poppy syndrome. Yeah.
So it's I'm like terrified of like, oh, what are people going to think of me? Like, are they going to think like, you know, who does she think she is, and and all this stuff, and it's running through my brain. And I've just got to remind myself, like, I actually don't have control over what people think of me. The beautiful thing is, though, I can keep showing up as me and being myself and putting myself out there and sharing everything I want to share and teach and inspire. And those who resonate with that and are attracted to that are going to be around me. And then those who don't, you know, I'll just have to allow space. I think we're not entitled for everyone to like us. And it's something that we have a hard time accepting.
Oh my gosh, this is so good. My friend and I went to a conference in Vegas last weekend. Shout out to Thrive, Make Money Matter. That was hosted by Cole and Sonia Hatter. Amazing event, all about making money and making it matter for good causes and things. And you know, my buddy told me, I was saying the exact same thing to him, and he's like, don't be selfish. I was like, wow, okay. You know, because we're at that level of accountability. He just said, don't be selfish. And I was like, yeah, you're right, dude. You're exactly right. Like, that is so true, because at the end of the day, it's like the hard truth of it is like, it's none of our business what people thinks or people's opinions. Unfortunately, Yeah, like my most recent post on Instagram, I was just kind of living that because I put on there, I was like, how dare anyone try to stifle your gift? You know, like what you've been called to do, your calling. Like that's nobody's place to do that. And if they do, like I literally, I don't have.
Let them, because.
Yeah, I literally don't even have anger towards them because I don't see them. It's like not important.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. You just keep going.
Also as well, like what people think of you tells me more about them than about you, right?
You know what's crazy too is the friendship thing, because what happens is you find out who your true friends are. Like a friend should be somebody who is like, if something good happens for your life, a friend is somebody who's going to say, wow, like what's next? What can get better? This is so cool. I'm so happy for you. This is happening. Let me know if I can help. Like so few people do that though. It's not to say anything negative about people who are just kind of intimidated by your life, but it is so few people who actually live in that generous space of, wow, I'm so grateful that good things are happening for other people. And, you know, nobody's life is perfect. So even the good stuff, there's turbulence behind the scenes that nobody else sees that, you know, frankly, it's no one's business to.
Like, we're all going to remember my ability to be successful does not take away from your ability to be successful, right? Like, it's like, because we grow up in high school and we're like ranked against each other and there's grades and there's this and that. And we just keep that mindset going on. It's like this old, outdated beliefs and habitual ways of thinking. And it's like, guys, like, hang on a second. I'm not in competition, like, with you at all. In fact, we can use each other as, you know, inspirations and examples of what is possible. And I also, like, you know, I try and feel compassion. Like I always remind myself, like, if there's someone who's kind of being a bit sort of negative or not as, you know, really celebrating my success, I'm just reminded that there is some sort of fear or insecurity that's being triggered there, and that's on them. And that's why I'm always like, it's about them and not about me. I think we have two deep fears in life. One is like FOMO, like my life isn't what it should be, something I'm missing out on something here. And, you know, the fear that I'm not enough, like something is wrong within me. And if I break down, and I'm always putting myself before I try and react now, I wasn't very good at this before, but, you know, now, you know, every so often I'll get someone, you know, say something and I'm like, whoa, like, I just take a moment and I'm like, step in their shoes. What could be being triggered here for them, and just meet them with compassion for that. Because, you know, defense is the first act of war. You know, if I'm not getting defensive, if I'm not trying to hit back at them, then there's no sort of tension there. We can just, you know, and that's, you know, I'm not saying I'm perfect at this, but I always know that's an option to do. And if I feel myself kind of getting burning out, I want to lash back out, I'm like, hang on a second. Like, I just love, you know, the quote as well, like, be the change you want to see in the world. And if I want to see people supporting each other more, I've got to support people when they're not being their best, or, you know, and when they're, you know, so I always remind myself of that too. But it definitely, I've faced that. And, you know, so much of it's probably in my head. Like, you know, when you just, like, I'm like, oh my gosh, everyone's judging me and thinking, who does she think she is? Like, I really haven't had that many people.
That's exactly how I feel sometimes. I'm like, all right, it's so true. It isn't, it's definitely, I'm not going to say for you, I know what's going on, but for me, I'm almost positive that it's completely, like, nobody actually cares. At the end of the day, it's the hard truth. No one cares. And honestly, even if you're public speaking, no one cares. Like, it's the message. Like, if you're, it's so funny how we go through life. Like, oh, like, what are people going to think of this or me? And it's like, no one cares. It's so, like, if I'm going through a season in my life right now where I'm like really detaching, like becoming, I love the idea of being a fly on the wall in the room that I'm in as well. So almost like a security camera, and watching the way I interact with other people, because it just shows me, it's like, it doesn't matter. Like, people don't care. I mean, it matters how you interact, but you get what I'm saying? Like, detaching from people's perceptions.
Yeah, massively. Like, something like just a little tip that I want to pass along to people. Like, when you're meeting new people and all this stuff, and your brain wants to spin out, like, what are they thinking of me? Like, do they like me? And it just, like, because that's all about me. That's coming from a place of ego, right? Yep. So I always flip the question, and I'm like, pardon?
I said it's a hard truth. It is ego. Yeah.
Yeah, but it is. It's like, it's all about me. Like, we think that just puts a spotlight on us. So I like to reverse the spotlight back onto them when I meet them. And I'm always thinking to myself, like, what is one interesting thing that I can appreciate about this person or find out about this person, or like kind of set my goal and put it back on, just the focus is on them. Like, so rather than what are they going to think of me, it's like, what am I going to think of them? Like, what can I, and rather than thinking like, what am I going to think of them? I love to, because questions are powerful.
Do I
it tells
approve?
Yeah. But it's like, what can I love or appreciate about this person?
Do I approve of this person?
Yeah. That was so funny. But I just tried, like, because your brain, it points your brain and tells it, no, this is what we're going to focus on. Because if you leave your brain to just like kind of to its own devices, right? Like, we have a primal fear of being rejected, because like back in ancestor days, if we were rejected by the tribe, we were left out in the field to fend with the tigers and likely die, right? So it literally feels like a life or death thing on the line. But of course, thankfully, there's no tigers that we're generally going and meeting in our meeting rooms. If so, I think you should rethink your occupation. But no, like, it's not life or death. So I like to tell I almost plan on those thoughts being there, but then knowing that I have the ability as a human being to redirect what I really want to focus on. So I don't judge myself for them and freak out about them. I almost say, oh, there you are. I was expecting you to show up.
Yeah.
Know that you're thinking, I'm about to die here. This person's probably not going to eat me. I think I'm okay. Now let's choose to redirect to, what can I appreciate about this person? Because then that makes me open up and get curious and lean in and ask questions. And guess what? They're more likely to like you when you come like that, right? Like, people can feel that insecure kind of energy.
Yeah.
If they're picking up on like, oh, this person's really interested in me. Like, what's, Jonathan, you probably know the answer to this. What's someone's favorite topic to talk about?
Me.
Oh, yes.
Them. It's the other person. It's ourselves. Yeah.
So because often when we're insecure, we're trying to like put ourselves in, like, well, this is what I've done, and you just like talk really fast and you get like, I don't know. But if you just like, you know what, I want to love on this person and see what I can appreciate about them. Like, and then suddenly they're telling you all about themselves. They'll walk away from that conversation. Like, oh, that person was so nice, or, you know, and it's really just because you just showed interest in them. And I think that's a powerful thing I've found. You know, I meet so many different teachers and people with what I do. You know, no 2 weeks are ever the same. I'm in a million different places. I'm always meeting people. And that's what I just try and like remind myself, like, just show up curious about them and getting to know. I often try and say, I want to even know beyond the persona that they often put in front of you at first. As like, that's a human being just like me. And I know built into their brains are these same fears of being judged, of being rejected, of, you know, all of that. So we're both, I kind of know, spinning out beneath the surface. So just trying to, you know, make them feel at ease. And then in turn, that helps me feel more at ease, I think, has really helped me.
Oh, like what you were saying about people can feel like if you're insecure. It's very true. And it's funny too, because it goes to the top levels. It doesn't matter how much money you're making, who you're rubbing shoulders with. Just so you guys know, a big out, like, you want to know this, because if you are insecure, I mean, we all are to an extent, but if you're operating as an insecure persona, one way that manifests is by you talking about yourself a whole lot, in a sense, in good ways. Like, it's instantly like, I don't judge people, but I can understand more clearly where you're coming from. If you're just, your first things that we talk about are completely you-centered, and you're bragging and saying this and name dropping in the first 20 seconds and all this stuff, I'm like, okay, you feel like you don't measure up or something. Like, there's something going on, or you're just very not sure about yourself. And it's not to judge you. It's just the way it is. And honestly, if you are insecure and you want to hide it, the best way to hide it is not to front. It's not to be like, oh, look at me. It's to say, oh, like, what can I ask about this other person? So if you are even still want to, like, quote unquote, I don't like the phrase, but fake it till you make it, the best way to do it is to just like listen and just, but that's not a good reason. I think the pure intent behind that would be just want to know more about people, want to be better for people, show up for people by being curious, by asking questions, by caring. That is actually caring, not just for the sake of, oh, I hope they thought I was interesting because I asked them a list of questions, but actually, actually care, you know?
Oh, 100%. And like, I always like to remind, like, confidence isn't I'm great and you're not. It's like, I'm amazing, you're amazing. Let's find out about each other's amazingness whilst we're together. Like, you know, that kind of idea. I think it's like, we don't have to push others down to bring ourselves up, you know. We're all on the same level. We've all got different strengths and weaknesses. And confidence isn't even thinking all parts of me are amazing. it's actually like, yeah, some parts of me are great. Some parts of me I'm a bit of a mess, and it's all okay. I love on myself no matter what. And I'm very self-aware of my weaknesses, and I'm trying to work on them. But then the beautiful thing is as well, like, we're so lucky, you know, if you're an entrepreneur and you're building an online business or whatever you're doing, like, we can hire people to help out with our weaknesses as well, like a lot of the time. And that's been a big thing I've invested in, and, you know, all I'm making just keeps going back into my business to keep growing it.
Let's talk. Oh, go ahead. Let's talk about that. I'm actually I'm getting to that point where I'm at right now with this podcast and things, and I just need more time that I can use to execute on ideas versus doing the work. I still do everything. Some of you guys might be surprised by that. It's over 100 episodes, but it's not necessary, and I'm not romantic about it anymore, so I'm willing to delegate that out. How's that gone for you with your everything you're doing? Like, I know you said you have family members involved with accounting, but like, how else are you hiring out?
Yeah, so I laugh because my boyfriend last night was like, there's one thing you hate, and that is surrendering control. So I really like to be in control of my things. So it hasn't been the easiest thing in the world, especially for some parts. So I'd really love like a VA or a PA myself, like a personal assistant, virtual assistant, something like that. But I've struggled to find a decent one of those. So I don't know if you've got any help, or it sounds like you're at like the same point as me. But I mean, with the foundation since day one, I've had mum doing like just like helping out with some emails and bookkeeping, and dad really doing like the accounting and like the higher level stuff with all the structure and the legal kind of like things you have to think about when you have a charity. But in terms of my own business, so I'm doing probably more than I should, but like for my website and my graphic design and all that, I've been really good at handing that out because that is something that is just way beyond my expertise. So I did kind of try and go like a cheaper option initially and try and get someone just locally to do my website. I just found this girl, Dina, from Simple and Soulful, and I just loved everything she was about and all of her designs and everything. But being in the US, like our Aussie dollar doesn't go as far, so it was quite expensive, and I tried to kind of shortcut and do locally, and it just wasn't matching my vibe. And so I managed to stumble across Dina through something, like I wasn't even looking for a website girl, but I just Googled something with my life coaching stuff that I was doing, and she'd done a blog on it. So I think and then like she's gone ahead and just created this amazing website, which has now led to opportunities like going to speak in America. So that's what I had to trust. I was like, this isn't me spending money, this is me investing money. And I wanted to think at a level of, a speaker who's earning $100,000, how would they look at this? And it would be like make the decisions from the woman I wanted to be and I'm going to become, rather than the fearful me that I'm kind of was at. And I just went all in on the website. But I think it's really important. Like Dina spoke my language. She was kind of in the same industry of like the coaching and the mindset work. And so she got what I was about. So I think it's important when you're choosing someone to take on like a project as big as, building your own website and like your branding and stuff. It's like, do you actually connect with that person? And it's totally fine to keep going until you do find that someone, that's why it's great. You can jump on calls with people before you hire them and chat to them and really be intentional about it. But if there's that gut instinct where it's like, I think this could be worth it. Like I went all in on that. And then also my branding is amazing. And I'm so lucky. That's actually one of my sister's friends, who's now like a dear friend of mine. And she now lives over in America, but she's an Aussie. And so Naomi, I sat down with her and we went through all the Pinterest boards and I was telling her about like my ideas for how I wanted my branding and my colors. And now she does all like my slide presentations. So she's on a monthly retainer now because I just used to do my own slides and everything. But suddenly I had to look at like, no, I want all parts of my branding across everything from the cards I hand out afterwards to the kids to my slides, my website, my video. I just spent truckloads of money investing in a demo video, which again came through a lot of research and recommendations. So she's just branded everything, and I've brought her on board with a monthly retainer so everything stays consistent. And she's going to help me promote the podcast because I'm terrible at doing that. But it's and I even got a speech coach, right? So when I got booked in America,
when you say,
so this is actually like how to she can do that. But with her, I worked on making sure my message would translate across okay in terms of just making sure the slang wasn't like totally in, because it's obvious Aussie slang, and then there's things that I'm like, I thought you knew that and you don't. So and just kind of doing an interesting introduction and having some fun. So she kind of helped me write and structure my speech and all of that. And that was, again, a big investment, but I just knew if I was going to walk on that stage and achieve this goal, that literally I was in America about 4 months before I got that email from the principal. And I remember I was just on vacation with my mum and I was meeting people and I said what I do when they'd ask. And they're like, oh, so you're speaking in America? And I laughed. I was like, as is, like, yeah, whatever. No, I'm not here to speak. And then a few months later, I got invited to speak. So it was like an identity crisis because I'd suddenly achieving a goal bigger than myself I'd ever let myself believe. And so I knew if I was going to walk on that stage, I was like, I can't control exactly how this is going to go. You know, there's so many variables outside of my control. There's technology, AV issues. There's, you know, kids that just are at different stages of their life and they're not ready for this and all of this stuff. But I just know I've walked on this stage giving this 100% of me. And that included working with someone who I believed was an expert in this. And, you know, even the best athletes in the world have a coach, right? So even if I felt like I know I'm good at this, but there's always ways that I can improve and keep developing this skill. And so I was like, as long as I know if it still failed and I knew I'd invested all this money and done everything, I wouldn't be like, that was a waste. I was like, I gave that my best. So yeah, but it all went well. And I'm still, like any public speakers out there will know, you're forever developing your craft, your message, finding better ways that you can resonate and connect with your audience. And so I'm like, again, it's a big investment, but every so few months or so, I want to get her back in and keep working and playing with her, because I just think there's always more room for improvement and ability to communicate and connect. So yeah, there's a few ways that I've involved you know, professionals and experts into my business. But yeah, I'm really struggling with the extra person that can, I just wish I could duplicate myself sometimes. I'm sure you feel like that, Jonathan.
I don't know if here's the thing too, like, yeah, I mean, the duplication thing would be awesome. I feel that the biggest struggle I have is time. I could do all of it. It's just, the day is over. So you can't.
Yeah, but see, if you duplicated yourself, you'd have someone working while you're doing the other thing, right? So then you'd get, like, that's what I'm saying. Like, it's the same for me. I get to the end of the day and my to-do list still isn't done. And I'm like, because the hardest part is, like, once you get to pay like someone in to help, like, get through the task in time, it's like you got to take a step back, right? Because you got to, like, train them up and you got to teach them, you know, how to approach things. Like, I'm so big on, like, just how to email people and be personable but professional and, you know, all of that stuff. Like, it's I want to ensure that they're bringing the brand, because, you know, KF isn't just a brand that you, like, just like my logo. It's the whole way I approach people and everything like that. Like, I'm very intentional. And as I said, I'm always coming from, like, kindness and bravery and all of that. And I want someone that's going to approach the world in that same way. But of course, you know, no one's exactly like me, but I know there's people out there. And I think that's a limiting belief to think that there's no one that can do that. Like, it's going to self-fulfill that prophecy, right? So I'm trying to believe and know and trust in the bigger picture that I will find someone and keep seeking avenues.
So it goes back to what you said about delegating areas of expertise. If someone has an area of expertise in finance, it doesn't mean they're good with people, but they'll take care of the books really good. So hire them for that. Hire your speech coach for speech stuff, but maybe not for the other area. It's the actual specialties. I think that's important. It'd be tricky to find an all-encompassing, duplicatable version of Kate or of myself. And it's like, you are my clone. You're hired. It's like, that doesn't exist. So it really is interesting. And what I have found over the last year and less than a year is that I started to recognize the truth behind speed, and speed being the main advantage to getting your stuff going good. Because you know of there was a podcast host, he was interviewing with another podcast host. They both made it at this point, if you want to say it like that. They both made it. In other words, they're very well known in the podcasting space. They had each other on each other's podcasts. And the one who's doing really smashingly well, and the other one who's doing, he's there. You know, he's got top-notch quality, though, because he still does all the stuff, basically, even designing his email letters and stuff.
Wow.
And the guy he's interviewing is the guy who's killing the game, right? Killing it, impacting way more people, probably 10, 100 times more people at this point. Guess what the crazy factor is? They both started at the exact same time.
Yeah.
The main difference is the guy on the left, who isn't making as big of an impact, still a great person, still doing amazing things. However, the scale is way less, even though he wants to expand. If it was his goal to stay small, that's cool. But his goal is not to stay small. He wants to grow. But what's holding him back, and he knows it, he even acknowledges it in the interview. He's like, my thing is I just have to have that control. I need to be able to do this. And I looked at the other guy who's really taking off. And he just looked at him and he was kind of shaking his head, not judging him, but just in the sense of like, you know, we talked about this before, you know, you have to let go and let other people do it. And I went to this guy's event last September and it was amazing. He pulled it off without a hitch. It was fantastic, amazing world-class speakers, etc. And I thought to myself, what is he doing differently? What is he doing that I can implement? I need to learn from him because I've seen him go from like this to this to this. And so if I can implement, and the biggest thing is that he learned how to let people in. He learned how to ask people for help. You know, he learned how to say, I'm not good at this, but you are. Can you do it? And they just did it. So that's how you really win, I think. And that's something I'm learning over the last little less than a year. But it's so true. It's just like, how bad do you want it? You know, it's like, you know, do you or do you? You know, it's the end of the day.
So it's so like, because 100% agree. And it's funny, I've been good with like all other areas, but just like for me, it's so with what I do specifically, I need help with like lead generation, marketing to schools, networking, sending out email campaigns, approaching schools, all that stuff, right? And I found someone online and then I trained her up and did all these things. And then like she sent out this whole email campaign and all the wrong, like basically it was meant to say like the teacher's name and then like I've just used this program. And anyway, it ended up being like this, like, you know, resilience presentation for school name. Like it was actually meant to say the school's name, but it literally said school name. And then it said hello first name instead of literally their first name to about, you know, 150 schools. And I just like melted into the ground and I was like,
yeah, but that's over. That's already over. So you had to get
and so it was like I got burned once, but again, I can't use that. Like I could use that as like, oh, look, proof, like, oh, see, no one can do it. Or it's like, of course, you know, there's people out there that aren't like, so I ended up saying, like, I think your skills are suited elsewhere. But I, you know, even just talking to you, like I showed someone, they're like, wow, you're even nice when you fire people. I was like, you know, you got a lot of skills, but I'm just looking for something different. But yeah, so
you screwed that up. You're fired.
But I think the big thing I need to recognize is there is people who are amazing at doing that. It's I just think that's something that I held so close, and even just talking with you now, it's a good reminder. Like, yeah, you know what, you do need to pass it off to someone because I'm always on the road. I'm in airplanes. I'm driving. You know, I can't sit down every day and do a couple of hours of lead generation. Yet I speak to people who are doing really big in this industry and they're like, you need to show up every single day and just keep reaching out. Even if you're killing it, like you just need to keep that consistency going. And I don't. And I'm very self-aware of that. And like, you're just giving me that kick up the butt that I needed to be like, yeah, you need to get onto that. So thank you, Jonathan. Thank you.
I'm a motivational speaker at heart. It's just no one knows it yet. At the end of the day, if you don't, then the time's going to pass anyway. So that's what I always look at. It's like,
it's going to take so long. I'm like, what else are you going to do with your time?
Yeah. You want to do all that? It's like, no, you could, and then you're doing the work instead of executing on the ideas.
Yeah. So
along that same line, connecting with others. How did you let people in after you lost your sister?
Yeah, I mean, are you meaning on like a friendship level, like the people like that were around me at the time and what happened with that? Because I can say.
So I was thinking actually more on a mass scale, like with speaking. You know, you like actually speaking about your story to people you don't know to help them.
Yeah, I Yeah, I think it's really just like reminding myself, like I always like to think like be who you needed when you were younger. And I needed someone to remind me of the power of vulnerability and just speaking up and being brave and letting like someone know like you're not alone in your struggle. Like you might not have lost a loved one, but loss is everywhere every day. Loss of opportunities, loss of jobs, loss of expectations and relationships and everything. So we all know the feeling of loss. We all know the feeling of helplessness. And the first layer of that, like, is, especially, but like, we're not seeing that, right? As more and more like on social media, we're not seeing that reality anymore. We're twisting the reality into what we wish our life really was all the time, right? We're just showing the highlights. And so we're getting this warped expectation. And so that's why even like yesterday, you might have seen on my own story, I was putting together a video for my sister's charity ball next weekend. And I had to write, like the video was starting with like a photo of her. And it was like Nicole Fitzsimons, 10th of June, 1988 till, and I had to put the 20th of the 10th, 2012. And writing that death date, like I actually let out a little wail and I just started crying. Like it just hit me all of a sudden and I was just crying and I was like, you know what? Like I get on and I have a little video and a little moment with my followers to show them. Like I looked at that and I was like, oh my gosh, like 7 years and I still love my sister this much. Like I think that's so beautiful that, like imagine if when she died, that guy took away the love I have for her as well. Like that would have broken me. I still get to love her this much. And so I'm all in on this pain. And I think that just reminds me, like real life isn't Instagram. It's not good all the time. And so I think that kind of reminds me, like that's the first step to helping these kids is to remind them nothing's gone wrong in your life. It's just gone wrong according to your expectations. But what if we readjust our expectations to be, of course, something like this was going to happen. This is my sucker punch. This is my loss. I don't get a choice about what that is, but I get a choice in how I respond to it. And so I think it is just, coming from that place of love and giving. And I know there are people who will probably roll their eyes at it or not be ready for it and judge it. But I'm showing up for that one kid in the room who's, going through a parents divorcing or, being dumped by someone that they thought was the love of their life or a mum getting diagnosed with cancer and just feeling completely victimized to it and showing them that although it's okay to feel pain and disappointment and frustration, you get to choose whether you become bitter to that experience and helpless over those feelings, or you can choose to accept the things you can't change and focus on what you can. And that is always your perspective. And we're not taught how to manage our perspective. We're not taught how to take control over our thoughts and what thoughts and feelings really are. There's such lack of cognitive and emotional kind of education, I guess, in our school systems. And it's slowly beginning to change because I think they're seeing the decline of mental health. And that's why I kind of want to step up and share my approach to it. And it's not for everyone, and I have to allow that. But then there's some kids that are like, oh my gosh, it was like you were reading my mind, like all the questions and like just hesitations and resistance I've had to this kind of stuff. It began to make sense. And that's just the beginning. I just plant the seed. It's not an overnight, like instant change, but it shows them that they're not in a black hole. They're in a dark tunnel with a door, light at the end, and they can get through it if they put these skills into practice.
Yeah, that's powerful. That is really beautiful. I think mental health is, it's something that I want to focus on a lot more with this show, and not only mental health, but what can aid mental health and what can, because there are certain things that so many people who might be actually struggling heavily with mental health, there are a large sample size of people who struggle with mental health. It is my belief that they could be helped with simple things like start taking a multivitamin. And again, I'm not saying this to sound ignorant because there are many people dealing with mental health things that are completely non-physical. It's different. It's not something I'm pretending to understand. Don't take this the wrong way. I'm saying this from a place of, I believe there is a segment of mental health out there, people struggling with it, who are just ignorant to the fact that if you take a B vitamin complex every day, your mood will likely improve a significant amount. If you exercise every day, even if it's a 30-minute walk, that matters. Like, you need to be moving. You need to be doing some things like that. And again, this isn't to talk about depression or, it would help. It would help likely. But again, I don't deal with depression. I'm not somebody pretending to sit there and say, oh, this will fix that. Like, I'm not saying it from that perspective. I'm just saying from a learning perspective, after going through losing a friend to a mental health thing last year, it matters that we talk about things that can help mental health, or just talk about it in general, not from a victimized standpoint, but from a point of, okay, this is the card I've been dealt. Now, what can I do with this? Because there are so, and even on a lighter scale, what happens when you're on social media all the time? It's just not healthy for your health. Period.
Yeah. Oh,
your mental health as well. What
it does to your brain with the constant dopamine hits and everything.
Let's talk about women on social media right now. What's it like for you to be on social media? Like, I have a friend who doesn't post anything weird, and she's getting borderline harassed by actual people who are like,
really?
Yeah, like soliciting her. She just is dealing with that because she's putting herself out there and encouraging and motivating people. She's not even an influencer, quote unquote, or like an Instagram model or anything like weird and editing all of her pictures like for 10 hours. It's just a genuine person, and she's still dealing with that kind of stuff. Like, what's that going to do for, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, thankfully I don't have too much like that, but everyone will know to steer clear. I'm very loved up, so you don't have a chance in soliciting anything to me. But the direct message has really definitely changed the game of Instagram, for better and for worse. Yeah, I mean, I'm always very mindful. I have a younger audience as well. Like, so I start speaking to kids like from 15, 14, following me along, right? So, I try and be mindful of that. And the funny thing is, like, I am into like fitness a lot, and a lot of people, like a lot of people want to be like, oh, post more like fitness stuff and all of that, but it's not. So I try and have a balance of promoting like fitness and exercising, and being active is such a big part of what keeps me mentally healthy. And I was on the treadmill 2 days after losing Nicole, at like 3 kilometers an hour. I don't know how many miles an hour that is, but very slowly, just one foot in front of the other. I think exercise is a beautiful metaphor for so many things in life. And for me, that was, I'm taking my first steps forward from this. So I'm mindful of that, but I try not to promote, too much of like putting my body out there and just trying to, because I'm aware of what it does for girls in compare and despair. And so I try and balance that. Every so often I like putting a photo up for motivation and show girls that show anyone, like, you can live a really hectic lifestyle where I don't know where I am, week upon week, it's everywhere, but you can still prioritize that training. Like, there really is no excuse. Well, the thing is, there's always going to be excuses, right? So you've got to choose whether you live. So this is, I always say it's excuse but intention, or intention but excuse. So which side is your excuse going to lie of your butt, right? Is it going to be, your intention, I was going to go to the gym, but I've had a busy day, or I've got to get this done, or I'm tired? Or is it going to be, I'm tired, but I'm still going to the gym anyway? And so that's kind of, I've always now put my intention after my butt. And I'm always like, I know I've got all the excuses in the world, but I'm going to go do this anyway. And so, I love teaching that through my exercise and stuff, but I always ensure that there's a message of empowerment and something that is going to get girls focusing beyond just, the look of how I look. Because I think they've got enough of that out there, and there's people that they may like to follow for that, but you're not just going to find that from me, because I'm so much deeper than that. And I struggle with that for a bit. How do I fit in my fitness, which I love so much, with being a charity director, with being a resilient speaker, with all of this stuff. And I didn't want to have to try and fit myself into a specific box of like, you can only be this kind of person. But I am very mindful of what I share and how I share it. And sure, at the end of the day, like, they'll finish, reading what I've shared, or seeing that and feel better or empowered or motivated in some way. That's just how I try and balance it all out online. And that's the thing. The funny thing is, like, I know I could post up some photos of me and in like working out and looking all, fit and all that, and probably grow my followers, tenfold or whatever. But to me, it's not the number of followers I have, it's the connection that I have with them and the meaning of why they're following me. That's what matters most to me. So, that's another thing that I'm always like, I'd rather have a really engaged community that knows me beyond what they see, just in the surface.
And I saw you referred the other day, people go follow Anjali. Is that how you say her name? Yeah.
Shout out to Anjali. Yeah, she's awesome. She's a Kiwi.
Okay.
Do you know what a Kiwi is?
Yeah, they're great. I eat them all the time.
No. Like, but do you know, like, they're New Zealanders.
Yeah, okay, gotcha. I thought so. Yeah.
I'm not just calling her a fruit.
That's really nice. Really,
yeah, no, so
really
Julie
nice
does it amazing. Like, I think, like, she's one of the very few ones on Instagram where I'm like, girls, like, she has the right message of health and fitness and happiness and looking after yourself. Firstly, on the inside matters more than anything. And being fit but not having to look like a freaking, poster girl kind of fit, but taking care of yourself and everything. And I've had the pleasure of meeting her a few times, and hopefully I will catch her when I go over to Auckland in July to speak. I said we should do a workout together, and she's just a joy to this earth. So I'm always like, I'll post a little bit of fitness, guys, but if fitness is what you really want with a good message, then Julie's your girl.
Well, in terms of social media as a whole, it's just something that shouldn't really matter, in my opinion, to your self-worth at all. As a guy, as a girl, because people are posting things and it's a highlight reel usually. So if you do find people who keep it real on there, cool, like, stay in touch with them, but don't ever, like, the comparison trap is a thirsty trap that is really out to steal your joy. So don't let it. But yeah, and it's sad too, because we're a little older, we're more resilient. We didn't have even smartphones until I was like, 20 or something. And even then they were kind of slow. But now you could be in like 4th grade and have access to an iPhone 10. And like, that's scary. They don't have the mental fortitude or capacity to see through a lot of things that are straight up fake. And it's true. Like, I'll look at that and be like, oh, I mean, obviously this is fake, or obviously like this has been, this is a manipulation technique or something. But, you know, if you're in 4th grade, like, you don't know that stuff. And this
you don't have the mental capacity to reason that out, they don't. They're seeing, the seeing is believing, like, oh, they look happy. They are happy. That's where the brain goes,
it's
right?
It's literally their world. It's literally their world.
Yeah, 100%. And that's why I think, schools have to continue to get educational programs in and just really kind of like, remind the kids of that. And, it's a double-edged sword, social media. It's
amazing tool. I'm not knocking it. I don't knock it. I don't knock it at all.
Like, imagine it's what it's brought to our world, what it's brought to my life, like podcasting. I mean, that's how I've met the love of my life. Like, it's crazy. That's a good story, that one. But like, just so many things that I would not trade for the world from what social media is brought in. Actually, my closest friends have reached out on social media now, like some of my best friends. Like, it's been amazing, but we have to keep it in check for what it is. And it's social media. It's not real life. And it's funny because, like, when you step back and think about what you put into a post, how you edit, like how intentional you are with it, how, all the other million things that have happened in your day that weren't as pretty as this one moment you're kind of posting, everyone else comes from the same place, right? Like, it's not like they're like, so that's what I'm always reminding myself, like, that person sat down on their couch, probably, in just like their pajamas or something, like posting this thing. It's not like they're just like living this life 24/7. And if they are, like, so be it to them. Like, everyone's got, like, like, there's this girl who I heard speak recently, and she's like built up this huge following. She's really successful in all areas. It's like a mummy blog. She's killing it. She's providing for the whole family. And then it turns out, like, she's grown up with a Down syndrome brother who she's never heard speak before. And she's had a lot of challenges growing up with that. And so, everyone has a story. Everyone has something unwanted, challenging, hard. And, it's not saying she had to share about that. And they don't have to, it's their right to keep their private life private. But I'm always reminding myself that, no one's no one's life is perfect. It's not, and it's not supposed to be, I don't think. I think our greatest qualities as humans shine through when it's not. Like I would, if someone's like, oh my gosh, I've just created the world of social media and you can go and live in social media world 24/7, I'd be like, I ain't in on that. No, thank you. I don't want to live in the world of this Kim Kardashian where we're all lying by the pools, photoshopped, winning the lottery.
That being said, let's talk about the difference between the Australian outback and what most people think of Australia.
Okay, what do you want to ask me? What do you want to know, Jonathan?
What is it? Is there
The
kangaroos
Australian
out
outback?
back? Like we have deer.
We have a lot. We don't even have to go to the outback to find kangaroos. Like if you drive to Canberra, they're like, it's they are out bush. Like so, we have a lot of bushland in Australia. The centre of Australia is just like all desert. So Australia is only populated along the coast, the east and west coast. Majority of it is just unlivable because it's so dry and so desert-like. And so you'll find. But did you know there's actually more camels in the outback of Australia than kangaroos? Did you know that? I didn't until the other year.
Not.
But I mean, gosh, Australia, like the big cities like Sydney and stuff, are very much like your typical cities around the world, but prettier, very pretty.
What's the if someone is to visit Australia, where should they go?
Sydney, because I'm from there, so it's just default to the best place. No, Sydney City in the Harbour Bridge, the Opera House, all of that. You got to get into our city on a beautiful day. It's just stunning. And it's hard to go past like tropical North Queensland, like the Great Barrier Reef, the Daintree Rainforest. I've gone up there. It's the coral reef's just stunning. Like if you get the chance to helicopter over the coral reef, just to die for. But yeah, even just down the coast of we've just got beautiful beaches. Like if you get in a road trip and do like just a few hours out of Sydney down the coast.
Can you surf out there?
Can we surf?
Yeah.
Yeah, not me. You do not want to see me surf. That'll be face planting. But there's a lot of surfing. It's just, gosh, what else did you do? I don't know. We just do really good coffee. So I'd love for America. It's just different. So I'm really excited. My boyfriend who's American is coming here next week, and he's been just to very quickly to Australia, but not to Sydney before. He's been more to Darwin, which is a different kettle of fish to the rest of Australia. We love you. I love you all Darwin people, but you are
kettle of fish. Kettle of fish.
I don't know why that's a saying here, because who has a kettle of fish? Or maybe I made that one up. Maybe it's not kettle of fish, and that's just how I say it. I've been known to change sayings and just roll with them. But it's exciting. And we drive opposite side of the road to you guys. We do it the right way around. We drive to the left. So I
thought you meant you drive to the right, and I was like, so do we.
No. But that's what I said. And because my boyfriend, I'm always arguing. He's like, we created cars. I'm like, no, it's still on the wrong side. You're going to be to the left. So that's going to be fun. He's the one that's been driving me around America. Now I get to drive him around Australia. And that terrifies him.
That's going to be terrifying. I heard that it exhausts people, like Americans, it exhausts us if we do drive on that side. Have you heard that?
Really?
Yeah, because you're not used to it, so your brain is thinking the whole time, this is wrong, I'm on the wrong side.
He's going to teach me how to drive over in America. So heaven help him. Just find me an empty parking lot.
Oh boy, that should be interesting.
Yeah. But I don't know. Australia's it's so worth the visit though, guys. I can't explain it. You get every if you adventure and hiking and outdoor activities, Australia is your place. As well as just we're pretty friendly. I think it was funny. I made friends with someone actually when I was in North Carolina. Oh, I was doing the wineries there. What's the wine region there? I can't think. I went to one.
Yeah.
But I met someone who had a New Zealand hat on. She had the this cap on, and so we got talking. And she'd just come back from Australia, and now I've made a new friend over in America. But she's she loved it. So I think you got to get yourself put it on your bucket list for the next few years, Jonathan.
Yeah, definitely will.
Make your way down under.
Yeah, no doubt.
And have you tried Vegemite yet?
All right, so I have a list of words that I want to know how you guys say them over there in Australia. I actually, I have, for the listeners, I do have a fairly good Australian accent. Sometimes I will use it. I said before this interview that I would use it for the entire thing, but that didn't work.
God, that would be exhausting.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. So how do you say hat?
We say hat.
Hello.
Hello.
I have a list of words that I put together here. How about a car?
A motor vehicle. No, we call it a car.
Okay.
I think we're not like an alien species.
Cup?
You're cracking me up.
That's pretty funny.
Okay, I know a few.
Yeah.
So what's a boot?
It's
in
a car
America?
trunk. Car trunk.
Oh, you're good.
I know.
You know that we call that a boot. Okay. Do you know what? I'm trying to think of funny things that we've like totally.
Gym. Well, you already said gym a couple times.
Gym? You don't call it a gym?
Oh no, it's called gym here. Mm-hmm.
Oh, I was like, what else? Oh my gosh, I've totally mental blank. There's like so many things where people have been like, what? But I mean, you're pretty Australianized.
Yeah, I do. So we've had one other. Is it Aussie? You say?
Yeah, Aussie. Yeah.
Aussie. Yeah, I've had one other Aussie on the show, Joe Duncan. He is the founder of Before 5 a.m. and that interview was really good. So if you haven't heard that, go back and listen to it. Amazing interview. Really cool guy though too. Yeah, you're definitely right. You guys are really friendly, and really friendly, like really chill people. I also met. Oh, who was he? I had a drone thing going a few years back, and there was a guy who's really built his brand in the drone space, and he's from there as well. I don't remember his name, but he was very cool. Every time I meet, and my friend Dave is from the Sydney area.
Oh, good old Dave! You nearly forgot your own friend. He wouldn't have been happy.
Dave and I, we have good stories together. Dave is a very good guy. So let's jump into the Heart Healthy Hustle round. I'm going to ask you a series of rapid fire questions that pertain to the title of the show. And the first, Are you ready, Kate?
I was born ready for this, Jonathan.
I don't think so. This is the Heart Healthy Hustle round. You might be thinking of something else. No, I'm just teasing. Okay, so the first category is heart. What activity do you use to care for and strengthen your internal character?
What activity do I use? That's a good question. Two things came to mind, but it's funny because it also goes for my physical, like, healthy part too. But I love going for walks, listening to podcasts that I love, but people that inspire me. I think that puts me in a really good, like, headspace, and just learning from them and gets me thinking and kind of clearing my own mind. And so that's always like for my mental health. And like my character, I feel like that's where I just focus on myself internally and learning from others and how I can grow from their lessons. So
So podcasts and walks.
Yeah, the two of them together is just like amazing. But I guess the walk kind of ties in a bit with the health, looking after myself physically as well. Yeah.
Health. What do you do to maintain your physical health and avoid burning out? Like you mentioned, you're traveling. You don't even know what day it is sometimes, but you're hitting the gym, you're exercising. So is there anything else?
Yeah, I mean, so I call that my weight training, my meditation. Like it just demands me when I'm lifting weights, the mind-muscle connection, you know, everything else melts away and I'm just really feeling like focusing in on myself again. So that, as well as sleep, I'm really trying to prioritize sleep better. I mean, it's hard when you're in a long-distance relationship and the timings, and so it's not as perfect as I'm like kind of wish it was sometimes, but I do try and get, you know, a minimum like 6 hours sleep a night, because I can feel my brain ability to just manage myself emotionally really goes down when I start to let sleep slide. And I love like Ariana Huffington and her just
Thrive,
you know,
right?
Yeah, Thrive, and you know, just prioritizing sleep. It's the most freely available resource we have to, you know, recharge ourselves and look after ourselves. But some reason our society seems to pride ourselves on no sleep, and I'm so busy, and I try not to be one of those people.
Is that's the same in Australia then? Really?
That whole mentality?
Yeah, like just work hard,
oh, yeah.
sleep less.
Busyness is like a badge But so I try not to fall victim to that. I really try and catch myself and I'm like, I'm so busy. I'm like, that's just that's not a fact. That's just a state of mind. And step back, look at what needs to be done. What can you prioritize? What can you hand off to someone? Get to bed. It's always my answer. It's like, yeah. So.
Awesome. What's your main motivation for doing what you do? What's your why?
My sister. And the love I have for her. You know, I do obviously talk a lot about how she died because I can save others from that, but really what motivates me is how she lived and just keeping her. I always say I live life large enough for the two of us. I'm all in. It's just double energy. I really feel her spirit here with me. And I think every day I get on earth is another day Nicole didn't. So it's up to me to make the most of it for the both of us.
It's so powerful. What do you think is holding back most proactive individuals from fully thriving and actually becoming the person that they know they should and can become?
Caring too much what other people think of them. I think that's the number one thing holding so many people back. Was that the question? Is that what you were asking? Yeah. Gary V's like the key to speed is not caring what other people think. I think that's it. And it's not caring like in a stuff you way, like I don't care what you think. It's just allowing space for people to have opinions and knowing that that is really about them and not about you. And I think, caring, it's funny, like caring so much what other people think is actually coming from, like I said, from that ego place of getting caught up in your own head. But when you go back down to your heart, human beings are made for feeling, the connection and giving and contributing and growing. And so it's, as I said, we're not entitled for everyone to like us. And the funny thing is, like, I'm going through a lot of judgment at the moment, like with my choices. And so I'm really letting go of the people pleasing at the moment. If I want to live true to myself, I've had to make some choices where I've literally had people recently be like, no, and all of that. And I feel myself wanting to control their opinion and wanting to argue with them and insist my case.
Insist your what?
Insist my case, like argue, like, no, this is why, like argue my point of view. But you can hit your head against a wall. Like, some people aren't just going to allow people to approach the world from their own perspective. And sometimes that means people are going to dislike you for a while or cut you out of your life for a while. But it's like, otherwise they don't even like you. They're just liking the version of you that you're trying to be.
Yeah, that is so true. I'm going to interject because that was a game changer for me. It's like you're showing up for their version of you that they want. And then when you realize that you're not actually they don't know you. And then when you recognize that, it's like that's a challenge though, because we want to have a persona, even though we say, oh, we're confident, oh, we believe in ourselves, or we're going to put ourselves out of our comfort zone and go speak in front of people and do this, that, and the third. At the end of the day, there's still a temptation to want to be a persona, so that if you truly do get spit on whatever, metaphorically, I guess is the word, you're still not really getting rejected. It's so hard to actually show up completely as yourself, because that actually can still hurt if you get rejected as your true self. It's not something that should hurt, but it still can be like, oh, okay, that person.
Well, it almost hurts even more because you're like, oh my gosh, I'm really being me and I'm still being rejected. But I think you're rejected either way. You're either rejected by others or you reject yourself. And I think there's nothing more painful than looking in the mirror and being like, I'm not even happy with who I'm being. And that was the big thing for me, like losing Nicole. And I think it's so funny because we try and hustle so hard and be someone like for someone else. And then we're often our nastiest and our most short-tempered and unkind when we're trying so hard to prove ourselves, that people are less likely. Like it's just, I mean, I think humans are this big hypocrisy. Like we've just got so many like this way and that way. Like we want to be ourselves and grow and contribute, but we also want to be liked and fit in. And it's just like, that's why we're always a work in progress, right? We're always growing. Like in one area of my life, I'm quite comfortable with who I am and what I'm doing. And then like, it's like, oh crap, like there's a lot of work to do here. But I think that's a beautiful thing. We can take the lessons that we learned in one area and apply it across. And but I think like going back to your question, I just think if we can allow space for people to be wrong about us and to not like us and to not, I love the idea of the rule of 3. I heard it somewhere once about like if you divide the world into thirds, expect about a third of people will not like you, will like be like hating on you, like you're doing it wrong, you shouldn't be doing that. A third of people kind of be indifferent. They like you, you're like, oh yeah, I could take her or leave her. And then a third of people are like your tribe that are all in, love you, your biggest fans, got your back. If I go into the world with that expectation, then suddenly when someone doesn't like me, I'm like, oh, you're just part of that third. Okay, cool. Like you're one of them, so then I'm suddenly not trying to be like, no, you need to all fit into this. Like you're my biggest fans. It's like, just allow, so you're part of the third. You're part of like, oh, you were nice. Okay, see you later. And then like when I find my people, I'm like, yes, join the tribe.
Because that's who you're wanting to serve. Yeah, and that's who you're trying to serve, right?
Yeah, that's where I'm going to put all my energy.
Yeah.
Yeah. But then trying to get like that's better. Like if I just let people not like me, then try and squeeze them into my tribe and convince them and all of that. Like I'm just wasting my energy on someone that's just never going to really have a high opinion of me. And that's for a million different reasons beyond my control. It's because of their values, their belief, their upbringing, their preferences. Like you can be the juiciest, ripest peach in the world, and there's always going to be someone who doesn't like peaches. So
yeah, trust me, I know. I got it. A good joke. I was gonna say I have a juicy peach, and that's the case. Anyway, paradox. The paradox there is if you're unattached from the outcome, you usually get a better outcome. It's just the way it goes.
Yes, isn't that so ironic? Isn't it? Like people think, like no, I've got to focus so much, and it's this beautiful thing too, though, because you do want to believe in the outcome and that you can achieve it with all your heart, but it's just not hanging your emotional life and all of your worth on whether it ultimately does happen. That is the key part. That's the hardest part to do as humans, because we it feels good to achieve things and get praise and get recognition and all of that, but if you're not able to give yourself that internally, like I don't want to have to rely on someone else patting my back to feel good about myself. I want to learn how to do it for myself, and it's through my failures and everything like that I learned how to do that. So I think that's that's such a key part. And not everyone's built for the entrepreneurial world. Like, not everyone has to. Some people are genuinely content, with routine and structure and being a valuable part of a company that's growing a bigger vision. Like I don't think people should shame themselves if they're not, living life like how I am.
Of course.
But it's like
to everybody.
But if you've got that calling, if it feels like that's what you want to do, like, my goodness, just get up and do what you can. Like, give it a go, because far out. Like, had my sister not had that spark in her to do it, like, I know she went with no regrets, and that makes me the proudest sister alive. And people walked away from her funeral inspired to live, and that is my ultimate goal in life, for people to walk out of my funeral. I want to give the same gift, and then there's going to be like,
oh my goodness. Yes. And you know what? You just gave me a new question for the ends of my shows. Wow. Oh my gosh.
That's my gift to you.
Thank you. No, really. Wow. I'll ask you it at the end of this, but wow. Okay. I hope that, oh, wow. Sorry. I'm just like blown away. Yeah. Sorry. I have a question here for you. Okay. Connecting with others. So you have a personality. You are somebody who loves talking in front of people. You love connecting with people, giving of your personality to others, lifting people up, smiling. Tell us how, tell the people how, it's who you are, but you are putting, influences the transfer of emotion. So you are putting effort into that. It's not just like you're waking up, you're choosing to, make positive action or take positive action and keep a good attitude, but it is who you are. But talk to us about how you show up that way. And are you just a very trusting person naturally? Because for me, I leaned far more not that way. I always liked people a lot, and then for whatever reason, I felt like I got mistreated multiple times growing up, and I kind of took the cynical approach for many years, and then I went back from that to now being very aware and keen on people who maybe don't have the best interest, but I still give trust to them, and I still give still choose to show up the best that I can with everyone. So can you talk to us about that? Because I find that it doesn't matter if you're an entrepreneur or not, it is something so powerful. There's nothing more powerful than the current of relationships. Would you agree? Or very
absolutely.
Little. I put it like this. I say, let's say, because you're a fitness person, where you're into fitness as well. I put it like this. I say, I can go into a swimming pool, be a lone wolf, become Michael Phelps in the pool that has a current and just work out indoors by myself in that single person pool each day, become an absolute animal. Like, wow, so impressive, right? Or that's doing it yourself. Or I can go out into the ocean and just like a rip current, which I know they're dangerous, but just bear with this sad word picture for a moment. Let's say you're out in the ocean, you're swimming in there. The relationships are represented by that rip current. You still put in that same effort, you still swim, but then when you look to your right, the shore, you've moved miles down with the same amount of effort, because that current is the people, it's the relationships, it's people saying, yeah, like, let's do this together. Let me help you. How can I? But not just that. How can you help me as well? It has to be a genuine reciprocity. It can't just be giving of yourself 100% of the time with nothing in return. Just being upfront, clearly upfront, and saying like, "Hey, I want this from you," and that way people can say, "Oh, okay, I know what you're about. I know you have I know your intentions. So now I'm not reserved or like not giving you everything that I can help you with because I didn't know." But yeah, anyway, I'm learning. You can tell I'm excited because I'm learning how powerful this is, and honestly it's just enriching for life. So talk to us about that.
Absolutely. I mean, it's like what we're doing here. You know, we both reach out, we thought podcast shows, and I always just remind myself, like, at the end of the day, you all have the same goal: to help impact someone's life, right? To be a positive part of someone's day, to help them overcome something or learn something or grow in some way. And I think we all need to let go of who gets the recognition for it or whatever. It's like, at the end of the day, we're all contributing to something greater than ourselves, and that's a beautiful thing. So how can I help you do that, and how can you help me? And in some sorry, I thought
you're a speaker. You're like, let me finish.
Shut up.
Yeah.
Sorry, I thought you said word, and I was like, no, but you said or, and I was like, oh yeah, sorry.
Or I'll say, and the question, do you know anyone who can help me as well? Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, massively. Yeah. Like, and that's always, sometimes I do get reached out. I'm like, oh, that's not my expertise, but leave it with me. I'll try and find someone, or I'm often passing along like a podcast episode or something where I'm like, I can't really answer that the best way for you, but I know someone who can listen to this. Because I think it's not about whose name's up in the highlights at the end of the day. It's, I think it just feels good within yourself knowing that, you're working towards a greater cause. And, Steve Jobs has a quote where it's like, being the richest man in the cemetery is an interest to me. It's, knowing that I've done something impactful with my day. And I love surrounding myself with those kind of people. And I think you can tell when someone's energy comes at you from I'm sure you get approached too by people who you can tell it in it, not for a mutual kind of flowing each way exchange. It's more give me exchange. And so I'll politely kind of tell them, like, because that's the other thing as well. It's being protective of your time. Like we're saying, we've only got so much time in a day. Because it's not even just protecting for yourself, but for your tribe, right? Like for the people you're trying to serve, you're literally robbing them if you allow somebody to take advantage of you. Yeah, 100%. And so that's why you've just got to like be mindful. And sometimes it takes getting burned once or twice to learn, but that's the thing, you learn. That's what mistakes are there for, right? To learn from them, and you become wiser because of your experiences. So sometimes rather than being like, oh my gosh, I shouldn't have trusted that person or shouldn't have spent my time there, it's like, oh, I can see now when someone kind of has this way of approaching things, it's not like the best way to move forward. And, you can just say thank you, but right now, I don't have the capacity to take this on, or, maybe you're better off like chatting with someone else or something. There's always a way to redirect. And because, I'm all about saying yes, but sometimes it's just as important to learn what to say no to, especially like in relationships. I'm very intentional now of who I surround myself with. So I think, but I'm totally on board with what you're saying of if we both approach each other with, I said, for me, it's all about reminding myself, hey, this person just wants to help someone. I know how awesome that feels. I know that I'm always very grateful when someone, does something for me. So I feel like, it's all giving back. It comes back around in different ways. So yeah, I think it's amazing. That's why I've loved, you've reached out to me, and we've had a lot of fun now, and you've got a follower and a fan in me now. Hopefully you join my tribe too. And yeah, I think that's awesome. You know, you're going to grow in Australia. I'm going to grow in America, thanks to, you know, in little ways, but it all adds up. I think
absolutely.
That's beautiful. And this is,
Yeah, I love that. That's so cool. Yeah, for sure. And I appreciate you so much too for your generosity and connecting. It's pretty cool. Yeah, no, and the biggest thing that I get asked that really bothers me, so if you're listening to this and you're considering it, please don't, is when people say, I'm like, yeah, how can I add value to your life? You're like, oh, I think you could have me on as a guest on your show. I'm like, I'm just like, why? What are you doing that you think that would benefit you? How?
Yeah.
Like, how?
Yeah.
Is like, I don't get it. Usually, and it's funny because the people who ask that are almost anyway. I literally, I'm not even kidding you. I was at this conference last week. Man, and if he's listening, nothing but love for you. Or I won't even. I'll cut this out. But he was like, I was like, dude. I was like, I was so two people did it. I was so almost offended because I guess I was like, I guess you don't know like what it's about because you're really not in the niche at all of what this show is about. It would not fit. And then what's great, unfortunately, what happens sometimes, I'll be like, hey, you know, respectfully, that's a hard no, but but I'd love to have a collaboration call where we feature you on the Facebook community group. And sometimes people won't even respond to that because they're just like, I guess they'll like feel dissed or something.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's actually something, you know, it kind of reveals true intent there. Like, oh, okay, glad I didn't host you on there then because.
Yeah, massively, right? Yeah. And that's like, I've had people just come on and like send me emails and be like, this is what I've done and I've done and I've done and I've done like whatever, or like I'm doing this and I want to create this. So can I come on your show? But there's no like, I'm always thinking if someone's reaching out, it's like, yeah, what is my audience going to get out of it? I don't care.
Right. Exactly.
Like I'm thinking of my audience, like how are they going to feel by the end of this episode of listening to you?
Yeah.
That's what matters to me. And that's what I'm thinking about. And so if they don't pull me in with their energy instantly, like, you know, you reach out to me, but immediately I was like, hey, this sounds like, and I just, you know, got to know you. And like immediately it was like this value, like I could see the value for my like audience and vice versa. So that was like, but like sometimes when it's just like, it's about them and not about how they can serve my audience, then I'm not interested.
100%. All right. So I had this question. I was going to ask it how you ask questions, so I'm going to try it. So are you a bit, hold on. Are you a book?
What is that?
Hold on. Are you a big book reader?
Is that the question?
Share your three most influential books and why.
Okay. Easily number one is The Choice by Eva Edgar, written by a Holocaust survivor. Unbelievable. Like Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl, but I even got more out of it. It's only a newish book in the last few years.
Wow.
But I even get emotional just thinking about it now. Like what she went through and the way she shows if you need someone to truly exemplify the power of perspective and our ability to choose what we focus on and the way that we tell the story of anything that happens to us, I think every single student in high school should be reading this book and just realizing, first of all, how lucky we are to have and live in the world that we now live in, but also, you know, the way that someone can do the most unkind, cruel, and inhumane things and you still get the power to choose your response to it. It just blows me away. So The Choice by Eva Edgar. I mean, I'm all about the growth mindset. So it's hard to go past Mindset by Carol Dweck and just how we always have that choice to, value the experience and the fact of, going after something more than just the outcome and seeing failure not as fatal, but as, you know, an opportunity to learn and how we do get better with practicing something. You know, there's people who may be naturally slightly better, you know, at something or have stronger talents, but they're not the ones who often are the most successful. The ones who are the ones that, have the ability to see, you know, the power of yet. I just haven't got there yet and everything like that. So mindset. And, you know, I'm actually reading a book at the moment by, is it Rachel Harris? Does that sound right? I can't think, but it's called Girls Stop Apologizing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Totally where I'm at the moment in my life when I'm now, you know, because I suddenly I thought I'd achieved my dreams and now they're suddenly gotten bigger. And I feel like I was talking to someone about goal shame, right? Like when you have a goal so big that you almost feel shame about it because it makes other people uncomfortable. And so it's learning not to have to apologize for what I want to go after in life and not have to justify it to anyone if it feels true to me and the kind of person I want to be in the world. So she's just given me permission to just keep stepping into myself and setting that bar high and just going after it. You know, my sister didn't spend time going around and apologizing for her dreams, and she was certainly living an outside the box kind of life. And so between her and that book, I'm just like, yes, this is what I needed. So yeah, they're kind of 3 books that have really, really, like, you know, Eva Edgar teaches me humility and kindness and courage. Growth Mindset teaches me that Grit is also a great one too by Angela Duckworth. But those kind of books of, you know, you're going to get obstacles, but you still like overcoming them is how you grow to become the kind of person who can achieve those goals. And then Girl, Stop Apologizing. It's just reminds me to not put myself in a box. I feel like I have to spend the rest of my life excusing myself for being a big dreamer and a big doer in the world. So, yeah.
Okay. Really good books, I believe. I think I have heard of all of them except the first one. I've read Man's Search for Meaning multiple times. Really good book for anyone.
Well, then you'll love The Choice. The Choice is, it's a longer book, but just, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'll have to look into that for sure. I'm going to add that to the wish list. Cool. Your favorite, it's probably not applicable here. Okay. Now, like I said, we'll go ahead and end the show with this question, but I'm going to change it up today because of the inspiration that you gave to me for this question. So the question is the park bench paradigm. If you could go back into time, Kate, let's say to 19 or 20, you were in the darkest time of your life. You were saw that version of yourself sitting on a park bench at Sydney Harbor, let's just say, and you're overlooking some water. And you could go up to the bench, sit down next to your 20-year-old self, and put your arm around your own shoulder. What would you tell her, and why? Oh, and use the pronoun you.
You?
Yeah, like feel like you're talking to yourself.
If I could say words to her, I mean, I'm going to think of the girl before I lost my sister, like in the middle of my eating disorder, of loathing myself, of starving myself, not just of food, but of self-love. I mean, gosh, I would say that you don't know it yet, but you are built with the ability to do amazing things, and you have a choice in who you choose to become from what's about to come next. You know, I was just probably a year away from losing my sister, but I would just say, you just hold on. Like, you've got a big future ahead and you're not even going to believe what comes next. But because I think I really lacked purpose in that time in my life. And that's why I struggled a lot too. I was like, I had never been through much. I just lacked a lot of meaning. So it would just be, just love yourself through this process of what's going to come next. And always remember that you are the one that gets to choose what's going to come of what you're about to go through. So just be kind to yourself and to others, and be brave. That's what I'd say. I love thought-provoking questions like that. I'm sure it'll be on my mind the rest of the day.
Yeah,
I'll be like, I'll wake up at 3 a.m. and go, that's what I should have said.
Kate, I just want to take a second to acknowledge you for everything you are doing. I always appreciate acknowledging people who are go-getters, people who are really making a difference in the world. They're showing up the best they can, and they're making huge waves. They're impacting, and you're not only in Australia, like I said, you're speaking worldwide. You're not even 30, and you have the courage to take the leap to speak internationally. It says a lot about your character and about your intentions. So I want to acknowledge you for everything, and taking some tragedy and turning it into a triumph so that you can help other people who need to hear your message. So thank you.
No, and thank you for reaching out and doing what you do as well, and caring so much about all facets of people, you know, mental, emotional, physical. I think it's so important. And for being a guy and doing it and speaking so vulnerably about your own experiences and not just putting on a facade either is important for, both men and women. But I think it's great for men to have a good, role model and example of what is possible as well. So, I've had so much fun on this show. I love podcasting. Is it not the best thing ever?
It's
it's the best
awesome.
decision I made.
It's very cool.
I love it.
I agree. I have to agree.
I was just going to say, I can't wait to have you on my show and introduce you to my listeners and banter back and forth again, because it's just the best things. Like, there's always like what I call byproducts of setting goals and things like that, but they're often like the most richest parts of, now I've got a new friend over in North Carolina.
Shout out.
It's just awesome. Yeah. You just do a shout out to yourself.
That's what I did. Speaking of plugs, how can people connect with you after the show, Kate? Give them your social media, however you want people to interact with your brand.
So I'm most active on my Instagram. So that's Kate Marie _Fitz. So the Marie has a double E _FITZ. So that's Instagram. I'm on there daily posting, little motivational stuff and just trying to get us all through this crazy thing they call life. So please join me on there. And also, yes, I have my own podcast show for teens and 20-somethings, although I do get all ages listening, I've heard, which is awesome. But it's called OK.NowWhat ? So I called it that because basically I deal with the tough stuff in life. When something happens, you're like, okay, now what am I meant to do with my life? Those kind of moments, that's what I kind of dive into, especially around the struggles that we deal with as we transition into adult world and it's going nothing like we expected. So that's my weekly show, and I'm excited to have you on there and have a whole lot of fun. We'll steer clear of parenting tips, I think, and and just have a good time. So but thank you so much again, Jonathan. I think how blessed are we to live in a world where we get to be on the other side of it, but to connect like this in such a meaningful way. It's awesome.
And I totally agree. And think about if you 10x multiplied this effort with connecting with people. Think about that. How awesome that would be.
Yeah, absolutely.
Guys, go check out Nicole Fitzsimons Foundation. Go to NicoleFitzsimons.com as well.
I forgot to say as well, which is a big one because I'm like trying to build up my career as well. I'm just going to jump on top of you there. So my website's katefitzsimons.com for my resilience talks and that. So if any parents or teens or anything or 20-somethings are out there and you've got a school or a youth group or a college or university or something where you're looking for a speaker to come along and to have an impact with your students or people that you care about, you can find out more about my talks and what I offer and all that fun stuff on my website, katefitzsimons.com. So,
love it. Yeah. Oh, shameless plug. Number 2. Okay.
Number 2. I always forget that I'm like a speaker. Like, it's funny. I'm just so obsessed with my podcast show. I'm like, hey, my podcast. I'm like, should probably just give a shout out if anyone's like, where's this? Well, how's this all work, this speaking thing?
Yeah, give us a glimpse into your podcast. What is some advice you would give to a 20-something young professional who is working in a career that they did not go to school for?
Working in a career.
They're feeling restless, maybe a little frustrated, almost a little bit of shame because they're like, well, I didn't go to school for this and I spent so much money and time trying to get ready for this career, but now I'm doing sales or now I'm doing this. What would you tell them?
Gosh, first level's always to stop like judging yourself. But I think for us, like at that age, we just got to get really clear on 2 things, like our values, like our top 3 or 4 values of what we want to value most in our life, and not just be recycling what our teachers or our parents kind of fed us growing up. It's like now we have the ability to choose for ourselves. And are you in a job that aligns with that and who you want to be and how you want to be spending your time based on your values? I think we're going to make value-driven decisions like once we get into our 20s, and also just like our beliefs about what we want to choose to believe about the world. Einstein has a quote about whether do we live in a hostile or a friendly universe. It's one of the most important decisions you'll make because that's going to then tailor the lens through which you see all of your experiences. I choose a friendly world because again, there's proof either way. We can prove the world's an awful world. We can prove the world's amazing. If we get a choice, why not choose to believe what empowers you and makes you a kind, strong, loving human being? So I go for the friendly universe, and I think we should all see all of our experiences through that lens because that's how we learn to contribute more. So I think, just choosing your own beliefs about what matters most in the world and the world we live in, as well as your values, then make all your decisions that align best with those when it comes to career, relationships, friendships, all of that stuff. I think that's what matters most.
You Congratulations on making it to the end of this episode. What about this episode stood out to you? Next, I need your help sharing this show. I want this podcast to impact and reach 6,000 people per episode by August 31st, 2019. And I want us to reach 15,000 people per month by March 29th, 2020. Have you been enjoying multiple episodes of The Heart Healthy Hustle? I'm thrilled to share with you an exclusive invitation to join our new Facebook community. To get to know other Heart Healthy Hustlers, simply go to thehearthealthyhustle.com/Facebook, where you can expect to see different members of our community being featured weekly in Facebook Live calls. I appreciate all of your love and support, and I will see you in the next episode. As always, be generous on every occasion. There is a story for you, and live wide open.